Hello, everyone, and welcome to Office Hours, where we answer your media and tech-related production questions every single day. Jason Beisch from Albuquerque, New Mexico is our reader for today, so he's going to start us off. Jason, what do we got?
Mark Sanderson in Chesterfield asks, through the QR code, our council recently streamed a meeting from another authority's conference room. They had problems with the sound on the stream. I was thinking of suggesting using a field recorder with an omnidirectional mic as backup. What would you do?
Alex is going to start us off. Alex, what's your thought?
It depends. It depends on what you're trying to do there. I don't know how many people are in that other room, how big the room is. As a backup, we have to get some kind of audio out that may work. But as a, the problem is an omnidirectional. Like if they have a lot of hard surfaces, and especially ones that are parallel, you're not going to be able to hear it through the reverb. So you just have to figure out what that sounds like. Building a backup makes a lot of sense. So doing some tests, if you're going to use that space regularly, doing some tests makes sense. If you don't have that many people, you may want to think a slightly larger field recorder with secondary mics, that are there just in case, or tied into where those mics are. Typically the board, you got to figure out what happened to the audio. If those mics are there and you can pass them, split them to you, then that might be a better solution where you have two systems that are both getting the mics. I'd rather have that than try to put an Omni in there to make it happen, because most likely it was the board or it was somehow connected to the compressor. The other question, so those are the things that happen. Rarely do the mics fail. Rarely do the mics are usually working just fine. It's how do you get them there, and it's typically that's typically the problem. Daniel Patridge said, if there is an audio board in the room, it may have another audio output that you can go into a field recorder, and there's no reason for an omnidirectional mic. James Haldane said, use DCN push-to-talk mics so that everyone has a mic. This is what most council meetings use. Yeah, so we don't. Tell us maybe a little bit more about your actual situation there, but those are the things that we would look at there. An omnidirectional could be something that is, but that's like when you think about PACE. PACE is primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. An omnidirectional mic is somewhere between contingency and emergency, but it's not alternate. So primary and alternate should probably be using mics right in front of the individuals.
Absolutely. That is the number one problem with bad audio in conference room situations, is they're trying to do one mic placed anywhere in the room and get people in various places in the room recorded. And the inverse square principle that we've talked about a lot, about how sound functions. The farther away from the microphone the sound source is, it diminishes very quickly. That's what they call the inverse square law. So if you are literally 1 foot away from a microphone and move to 3 feet away, that's a 9 times diminishment in the level of sound hitting the microphone. And you can imagine what that means when the mic is here and somebody is 15 feet away, 15 squared. That's a big number. So there's very little sound reaching that distant microphone. And you just can't get around physics, no matter what kind of mic you get. People buy things like shotgun mics and think that means if you point it at the voice 10 feet away or 15 feet away, it's going to be like it's near them. It's not. So we always say, in conference room situations, you want a mic for every person, or have like a questioner from the audience come to a mic. If they get within 6 inches of the mic, they will sound great. If they are 6 feet away from the mic, they will generically not sound great. So just how it works. Next question.
Jeff Francis in Columbia, South Carolina asks, has anyone used Blackmagic Design Cloud Pod? Thoughts?
Alex Lindsay, have you had some experience with this?
We're kind of still waiting for it to mature. It does sound like it's getting to a closer where you're seeing them continually. Sometimes Blackmagic wants to do something and they get it out there and people start to kind of build and start to use it, but it doesn't have quite all the pieces that we need, or at least you need at a certain level of production. So I have not used the Cloud Pod yet, but I'm talking to some folks that are really like using it. And so I haven't got my fingers on it specifically. I think it's maturing. I think that sometime this year or later, or early next year, I'll probably start playing with it. But I've been giving it a little time because when it first came out, it probably wasn't ready for prime time. But I think it does feel like it's getting there.
Excited for the next question. Next question.
Next question comes in from the QR code from Mariette Shushamiera in Wabalo. Mom got me an Office Hours t-shirt, but it was smaller and print was off, so I gave it to my sister. Finally got replacement and now paid for 2 shirts shipped with the same problems and one falling apart. If printing more shirts, can we please get better ones? More than $50 was a big donation.
Alex is going to tell you the circumstance.
Yeah, so if you put your email into the QR code, we won't talk about it on the show, but we'll reach out to you and we'll see if we can't figure that out. We're going to do another run of the t-shirts there. So take pictures of it. Let us know what that actually looks like. I think one of the reasons that we are having future things sent to me, and I'm going to go through them all, is that I will look at, while we're small and these are sub 1,000 things, I'm going to look at every shirt and every hat and every sticker that goes out. So I don't know about whether we'll perfect the size. Size should be the same. I don't know why it would be too small. But as far as logo placement and everything else, I personally am going to make sure that we see them before they leave. The direct order we thought would work well. And it worked pretty well, but I think that we'll go to having them go through a check system before we send them out the next time. It wasn't that many, but there were a handful of issues here and there.
I'm going to say that the one thing I hated most when I was chairing a charity festival was the T-shirt management. It is one of the most difficult things I've ever taken.
It's a thing. It's hard. They're printing so many of them, and you're part of, and you just have to. And so you're always, out of 100, you're going to have 5 or 6, which is about what we had, that aren't going to be perfect.
Well, and just in terms of inventory management, keeping all the sizes, and then the ladies who came to the festival did not want regular T-shirts. They wanted French cut T-shirts, and then they're the colors and the management. Oh. So anyway, next question.
Another QR code question, this time from Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada. On Monday's show, Tony mentioned the Zoom H6, but then it became the F6. So which one does Tony have?
Alex, do you know?
Yeah, Tony has the H6. We were suggesting that if you're going up, an F6 is considerably better than the H6 as far as the quality of the preamps. So and many other things. So, but he has an H6.
There you go. Next question.
Paul Walhus in Austin, Texas asks, what platforms are good for sending an RTMP feed reliably and embedding it on a website, aside from Vimeo?
Alex?
You don't send, typically, you don't send an RTMP to be embedded. You send RTMP to something that's going to either typically re-encode it and then deliver it as HLS. And that's what's happening with Vimeo. That's what's happening with YouTube. That's what's happening with, so all of these sites, what you do is the RTMP stream goes into their ingest, and then they're going to distribute it typically as HLS, because they're going to want to have all the multiple. HLS basically gives you multiple lanes of resolution and quality, and the player is making a decision about which one it grabs onto based on the manifest, and we've talked about that in the past. And so HLS is how it's delivered. RTMP is just how you put it in there. Now, some sites like Facebook require SRTMP, which is the secure version. YouTube will let you do SRTMP or RTMP or ER, also enhanced RTMP. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can do it, but typically you're sending it into a system that then gets reprocessed and then out. But as far as embedding goes, Vimeo does it. You can control it. YouTube does it. So you can. And we're doing it right now on our show, embedding a YouTube video into it. And the question is, how much do you want to secure the video? And that's the question as far as like what you use. If you don't care about it being secure, YouTube is a pretty good solution. If you do want to secure it, then Vimeo is the next solution. And if you want absolute control, then you start looking at things like Akamai.
For those of you who are long-timers in the show, you know that we are driven by your questions. We can take them in, chat about them, vote on them, and those things are all part of the process here. If you'd like to get involved, go to our question and answer system. It's really simple. All you do is have to go to officehours.global/join. You'll get an email within a day or two, and once you've done that, you can ask, vote on, and discuss the show's questions. And voting is important because that's how we prioritize things. The questions with the most votes get pushed to the top of the stack, and we spend more time talking about them, particularly here in the beginning of the show. So that's how it all works. officehours.global/join. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, what preamp/direct box would you use for tracking synths into a DAW?
Alex, suggestions?
You know, I don't know exactly where we would go with it, but Mickey does. See, the key is I put my hand up and then I just kind of look up and I start to mumble around, and then this is
get your wallet ready.
Usually most people ask these questions on Wednesday. Mickey answers a pair of Avalon 737 SPs, Avalon B55, and a pair of Universal Audio LA610s are my workhorses for DI in the studio. Radial JDI Duplex and Radial Pro D2 for events and in the field. There you go.
Mickey does love expensive toys, and those are all superb pieces of equipment that will last you your entire career. Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, what is the history of T-Power? I have a Sennheiser MKH 416T, and I'm wondering if there's any sort of conversion to Phantom, or should I just keep it and restore it?
Alex, what's your thought?
Yeah, for these like very vertical, I don't usually say this, but for these very vertical audio questions, we got a lot of great people here on Wednesday. So we're gonna have you bring that one back on Wednesday, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I will just say, having worked with T-Power a little, T-Power is still pretty big in the film industry, particularly in rental houses and things like that, but it's really falling out of favor. There were some definite issues with it. I used it a good little bit when I was starting out in my career. 48-volt standard Phantom power is different. There are different wiring schemes, and you have to do some dancing and things like that to convert between the two. And there's a new digital Phantom power that's like 10 volts rather than 48, but I'd come in.
Mickey said there are a lot of Phantom power to T-Power converter boxes and barrels.
Yeah, so you can
PSC,
adapt one to the other.
Ambient.
And so if you've got a classic here and you're trying to rehab it, they've been used along. A lot of the sound you hear in films come through T-powered microphones, so they're just as good as anything else. But you have to be a little careful as you crossover Phantom power things. I mean, a lot of people talk about the fact that if they don't correct, one of the problems with T-Power is in certain microphones, if the pins all don't hit at exactly the same time, it can have a little spike there. And in some rare circumstances, it can damage microphones and things like that. So you do want to spend a little time thinking about how the microphone is powered if it's an active mic, and make sure you're careful about it. Always best practice to turn off any Phantom power, T-Power, or anything else before you connect the microphone. That'll be safer for you. Next question.
Coming in from the QR code, Mariela Shusha Miera in Wabalo asks, I asked about HETMA and was told about something called Araksia, but I couldn't find any info on it or how to get their training. Where do I go to find out more about the industry group Alex talked about?
Alex, you're here.
I think what you're thinking about here is Araksia. Araksia does a variety of things around event training and event events. I believe that they run Infocom. So I think that's Araksia, AVIXA.
Okay, that should help. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, I saw this video about using wooden wedges to reinforce a cheap desk. Has anyone had any experience with this method? And he includes a YouTube link.
Alex, have you seen this happen?
Yes, I have. Don't do it. Don't do it. This is not a good. This is not the path you're looking for. I would not. You can fix a cheap desk, but if you're going to do it, I mean, if you're going to fix it for a show, you're here and there's nothing, there's no other way to go, then it makes sense. But otherwise, I would not go down this path. It's better to. James Haldane posts a brackets floating brackets that might make sense there in Mucana, but I would not do something as a permanent solution with a wedge.
If you ever see me with a cheap desk, what you'll see a lot of mic stands and things like that outside the desk with boom arms bringing things in, because the worst part of a cheap desk, not only does it wobble, which is fine, you can get by with a wobbly monitor, but boy, you attach a microphone to any kind of unstable surface and set your coffee cup down, everybody on the show hears it. It's just a nightmare for audio transmission. So, next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, if I replace the Zoom H6, what should I get? I do have budget issues.
Alex, what do you recommend for Tony?
Tony, you have friends who, that drive you crazy because they can just wear whatever they want and they always look good. There's those friends that just their body type is, they just kind of they throw something, you throw it on and you look horrible. They throw it on and they look like a model. And you're just like, how how do you do that? Well, Tony, your voice is like that. So it doesn't really matter. Like, you don't need to upgrade an H6, F6. There's some people that, they need more work. They need a better mic. They need a whatever. You're fine. I wouldn't worry about it. So I think that, I think you have other fish to fry with. We did a kind of a breakdown with Tony's studio on Saturday. There's other things for you to spend money on. You have a Scarlett, which you could go back to if you wanted to. You have the H6, which works. I think you sound fine in. I don't think that if you didn't have such a booming, amazing voice, you'd have to worry about it more. But you've got a good mic, and it just doesn't matter. Like, for you. Some people need it, you don't. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would spend your money on other things in your studio to make it look better.
I'm going to agree with Alex. You sound beautiful, Tony. We've all admired your voice for a long time, and it's getting through to us. Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, would you take a $250 risk on the next generation neural controller? And has a link to mudra-band.com.
Oh, neural controller. That sounds like surgery to me. Alex, what do you think?
Not yet. so this is I'm not dead yet. So anyway, so this is the neural technology here. They have they have a band and a link. The link is, I think, the let's see what the
implant
here. I don't think it's an implant. I think it's I think both of these, especially at that price. I think
something to wear.
There's things to wear. I mean, maybe that would make sense. I have a feeling. I guess what I would say is I have a feeling that if this actually gets to a point where it's close to mature, Apple will most likely put it into the watch. Oh, I guess that's the band for the watch. Maybe now they have my interest. So this is being able to potentially. So what it's doing is it's kind of reading your hand, so that you can. So it is on your Apple Watch, but you can now do controls without.
It's positional sensors, a little like the Christmas tree that we were watching Nick Justison's video from a week ago.
David, you're a very expensive friend. That's all I got to say. I don't appreciate that. Oh, I do appreciate it, but I don't appreciate it. I'm confused. So yeah, I don't. But this actually looks pretty cool. So I'm going to try. I'm finishing my studio first, and then I'll look at buying it.
It must be a Kickstarter of some sort. He said, would you take a $250? So obviously,
I think it's just buying it. I think. Are you going to risk? Let's see here.
Is it a Kickstarter?
It's ready to order. $350 at least for the band. So the band is $350 there, and it's pretty high tech band, as you can see here. I don't know how comfortable.
Wonder what powers it. I wonder if it draws down the watch to do all that sensing. Interesting. Alex, are you still there, or did you get muted? Oh, well, I don't know. Jason Bass wants to get in on this. Jason?
Yeah, I have two questions about this. The first one is, no, it cannot draw power from the Apple Watch, at least not by any conventional mean, unless you're going to pry open that little door, in which case, bad idea, avoid your warranty, don't even get me started. Well, my two questions are, one, does the battery or the band last as long as the Apple Watch? And two, how are they preventing, pausing video playback when I eat popcorn with my left hand?
Oh, yeah. Your mouse would go flying off the screen.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I don't know about that.
Okay. Well,
I think I'm back, by the way.
Oh, good. Yeah,
my internet took a hiccup. I don't know what happened. Someone pushed the wrong
Good to have you
button
back.
At Comcast. Yeah, exactly.
Next question.
Ryan Thompson in Houston, Texas asks, trying to learn more about graphics. On the NBA semis, there were some ads on both ends of the floor, but are not there on replay or any other camera angles. Why are they only in live?
Alex is going to demystify this for you.
I didn't see this, but I'm assuming that this is running very much like the way you see it in soccer, or the way you would see it in at the first down line in the NFL. And where what happens there is that there are only certain cameras, and oftentimes it's only one or two cameras that have been calibrated for the court. And so basically what they're doing is they're mapping that onto the court, and it's gotten really good. They're using difference keys that are very high quality, that they can have the players over top of them if they want to. But it is but it's being keyed over top of the cord. It's the way you see it. And what they do is the camera gets calibrated to the position from its position, and that position typically is it doesn't move at all. It's just simply on an axis, and some of them are actually on their nodal point. The old ones were on their nodal point. I don't think they need to do nodal point anymore, because what that did is it eliminated all the parallax. So by putting it on the nodal point, you can rotate the camera and pan with the scene, but it actually doesn't change the geometry of the scene at all as you pan over. And so that makes it easier to map it out. I don't think they need to do that anymore, but that's how they do it. But you'll notice this in football as well. Some of the camera angles have the first down, and some of them don't, because it's just which cameras are calibrated. And sometimes they've chosen not to do those. Some of the angles wouldn't be stable. In the old days, you'd see it move around a little bit. Right now, the technology's gotten so good. And it was a big deal especially when they did it with soccer. What happened was there was all these ads along the border, and then the broadcasters realized they could replace all those ads with their own ads, and then the people who own the stadiums were pretty upset, so because they'd been paid a lot of money to have theirs on there, and so there's a lot of negotiation that went back and forth. But that's what's actually happening. They don't put them on the replays because it's not there. There's nothing there yet. I know the NBA is testing LED floors. So there are floors where the entire thing can look like a basketball court, but they can make any part of it a video as well. So it's not there. That's not being used yet, but I think they're testing it.
And in the chat, pragmatically, Jack Kennan says, because they only paid for the live probably, and that is a thing. You can buy in-house. If you're a local business and you're somewhere around the stadium, you can buy an ad in the stadium. It's not as expensive as if that ad is going out to a large group of people. That is much more expensive in terms of the ad costs. So it's probably a combination of those things. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, Ruthless review recommendation for me, Sony ZV-E10 II. Should I consider used?
Alex, what's your feeling about Tony and a ZV-E10 II?
I think it was a ZV-E10 second generation, I think is what we were talking about. And the Ruthless, this was on, so for all of you watching on Saturdays, the fifth Saturday of any month, where we have a fifth Saturday, which happens every 2 or 3 months, we often do a Ruthless review in after hours where we just pick at each other's setup. So Tony was one of the guests in the setup process. And we talked about the next step for his studio would potentially be to get a camera with a shorter depth of field, and I think that So I do think and Mickey suggests the OBSBot tail too. And for me, the whole thing is that I would not build a studio that I cared about with a sensor size less than Super 35. Like that's just it just makes such a big difference in how it looks on a show that I would not, like if I'm going to do something regularly, so finding an APS or Super 35 size sensor or above in the OBSBot doesn't meet that requirement. So that's the thing that I would say is I think it looks so much better than all the other cameras that I would strongly consider doing that. I think that the ZV-E10, the other thing that it has is it's the color science is going to be a lot better than the OBSBot. And in addition to that, you can load LUTs onto it. So the older one, my wife uses the older E10, but it doesn't have a LUT selection. It looks fine for her, for what she's doing. She looks great on it, so it's fine. But being able to have that fine control, I think, is useful.
Next question.
David Brady in New York asks, late 2015 iMac, OpenCore legacy patcher or no?
This will be interesting to me. Jason Bache.
David, buddy, let it die. If it was a Mac Mini, if you could upgrade it in some which way. The problem is, even at that point, I wouldn't even use this as glue because I would be worried that it would just kind of wake up one day dead. So 10 years and one generation of processors, Intel completely away. No, skip it.
Alex Lindsay?
Yeah, I mean, it's good for clocks or like to connect. The nice thing about it is it's probably got a fire. Does it have FireWire on 15? But it definitely has.
Yes, it did.
So having something that you can connect, maybe not FireWire, but Thunderbolt, the old Thunderbolt, having an old computer that can connect to old drives is useful to have around. But that would be the only reason I'd keep it around. That and maybe running a clock or some kind of web server. But I wouldn't I wouldn't do anything crazy with it. It's 10 years old.
Yeah, I'm going to support that. I've got an iMac, a big, beautiful iMac from way back in the day. It's got snow leopard on it, and I can't even find a way to get it back open. It had some problem, and I'm trying to replace the operating system. Been a nightmare. It's a fun little project, but I wouldn't try to use it for anything. I'm going to be sad to see this big, beautiful screen go away when I've only had it operating twice, but it's a nightmare to try to find old drivers and stuff like that. Next question.
Coming in from the QR code, Chester Sweeney in Las Vegas, Nevada asks, in which categories does Chat GPT get wrong the most often, and what should we do about it?
Alex, can we do anything about it?
There's not a lot to do about it. Where it has the most errors is where there's not a lot of information on the web. So if there's, it knows the average of what everybody else here has. What everybody has typed and what everyone's put into the internet is what ChatGPT knows. So if you go, there are definitely places, verticals that you can jump into that ChatGPT becomes less stable because it just doesn't have enough information. In areas that are very common, man, it's kind of an amazing product to figure things out with. Again, I would never consider anything the truth that comes out of ChatGPT, but I would not consider anything that I read on the internet to be the truth either. So I don't think, we talk about ChatGPT being inaccurate. I'm like, have you ever done a Google search and clicked on the first couple of things and you open up and you're like, what are these people talking about? Anything you know about, if you go to look at it, you're like, these people are crazy. So I don't know. It's just led by those people, right? So it's the average of those. So things that aren't well documented are the things that it tends not to do as well with.
Next question.
Chuck Swan in Bristol, Wisconsin asks, no doubt asked before my time, but is there any remote pan tilt head or PTZ camera around $1,000 plus controller that could do passable on-air moves, not presets? Client is a small house of worship.
Alex, do you have a suggestion for Chuck?
It just depends on how big when you say small house of worship, where can you put the cameras? How can you put them? I mean, I think that the things that PTZ Optics, which have been on the show before, probably have some of the better ones. I don't think they're below $1,000, but they are some of the better PTZs. Then you have the OBSBot family of things that are in there that have some larger sensors that are there that you may be able to do it. I don't believe in, I'll be honest, with even higher end PTZs, I very much avoid on-air moves. And I'm talking all the way up to a telemetrics with a Blackmagic head. You can do it, but you can't. It's very rare, and you have to have a very good controller. So even when you're spending $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, I really avoid building shows around the assumption that I'm going to move any of those cameras. If I'm going to move a camera, I'm going to put an operator on it, and so that's I like what the PTZs are great for is having presets, and you hit boom, 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 and the people are being interviewed are right on every single time. I don't have to have someone kind of trying to remember where they were. Like all of that stuff is great. PTZs, I'm a heavy user of PTZs. I am not a big fan of using them for moves. The only exception that I would make, and I've only used them once, just from budget and so on and so forth, is the DJI Ronin heads with they have a gear head simulator that is, and so you can turn it there. That works, but that's the simulator itself is I think $10,000 or $12,000, and the head is another couple thousand. So for $15,000 for the head, I approve of that message. Like that one, I've played with it at NAB. We used it for one project. I rented it just because I had to see if it would work. It works phenomenally in a project of being able to move a remote head, but it's more than $1,000. So I would be careful of going down that path for a small one. I think you're better off with either someone that you train that has a little camera. You're going to get a better, higher quality, teaching someone how to do camera work than having a little PTZ. If it's a very, very small group, you might be able to figure something out, but that'd be the challenge.
Yeah, I'm going to second what Alex said. I can never forget the year I got a serious fluid pan tilt head, and realized what I had been missing on the inexpensive systems I used. And I kept thinking when I watched TV, that's why they spend for those Mitchells and O'Connors and big things. The aesthetic quality of moves just becomes far superior to the little stuff.
One thing I would say about Small House of Worship is I'm working with a Small House of Worship right now to help them with their video. And one of the things that there's an opportunity for small houses of worship is of whatever denomination, is to look at how do you expand. This requires some investment, but figuring out how do you expand past the confines of your local community. And so how do you build, we're looking at taking their, where they were doing worship and turning it into essentially a studio. People can still come there and still be part of that, but we're really thinking about rebuilding it so that it is designed for online distribution, and the goal is to build a congregation that is for them is the world, and provide that out and build everything towards that, because they don't have that. They have a space that's pretty nice, and they don't have that many people coming to it, and so it's a pretty remote area, and I think that could be something. And what's the advantage of a small house of worship is that there's not a lot of people there to complain, because there's not a lot of people coming. So there's and so you can make changes dramatically without as much resistance.
By the way, if you have questions you want to get into the show, either today or anytime, you can always use our quick process. That is to go to askofficehours.global. I just tossed up the QR code for that. AskOfficeHours.global into any web browser will get you into our fast question insert system. It takes you right directly there into the back end. I'll look over the question and then get it in. It doesn't allow all the voting and things like that our regular Mukana system does, but it is the quickest way. AskOfficeHours.global. Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez in the third in Jacksonville, Florida asks, what are your thoughts on the new Sony FX2? Will it be a better CatCam versus the Sony ZV-E10 Mark II?
CatCam, that's interesting. Alex, Lindsay.
I don't know if it's going to be better CatCam or not. I will say that I'm probably upgrading my FX30 to an FX2 sometime this summer. I'm going to probably sell off the FX30, sell off a couple other things. And buy the FX2. I've been looking for, it kind of isn't the right price point for me, where I felt like the FX3 is another $1,000 more. I really couldn't justify a $1,000 more, $3,700 for a webcam. But for whatever reason, $2,700 is fine. So anyway, I'm working on kind of doing, and again, it's not that total cost, because I've got other cameras I can get rid of. And so anyway, so that's that's kind of the direction that I'm going. I think that the advantage of the FX2 over the ZV-E10 II is that I think the heat dissipation will be better. Of course, it's a full frame sensor and not a Super 35. Some of the color science might be actually a little bit better. It's a better chip. So those are the kind of things they're there. Again, if you're not on all the time, I don't know if it'd be worth it, but I'm going to probably move to the FX2.
Next question.
Tommy Chance in St. Paul, Minnesota asks, has anyone run the Core Sound ambisonic mics? They have a first and second order model. What are the reasons to get one over the other?
I know Alex does a lot of work with ambisonic. So Alex, what's your opinion?
Yeah, so this is what I have one. It's out of reach. I didn't see your mess. I would have picked it up and brought it over. But this is what I have. The one you see right here. So obviously the second order is going to give you more resolution, because it's grabbing onto more data there. The one that I prefer, if you're going down this path, is the Voyage. So the Voyage, I'm using the USB Voyage, but there is a Dante Voyage 2 that I hope to test sometime soon. So I'm testing the USB version of the Voyage at the moment, and been really happy with it. The Core is a really cool mic, but it's cool for its time, and it's very tweaky to actually do the records. I find that it was a little bit noisier than I expected, and I think that it does sound very good, but the practicality of it is a little bit less there. So if I was going to lean between the Core and the Voyage Dante is probably the one. And I didn't know what the Voyage Dante was until I saw Apple using it. so I was like, I didn't see it personally in person. I just saw it on a behind the scenes. Apple's using the Voyage Dante version, which is also a second order. I don't know if they open this up here. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Second order system to make that work. So I would look at that one as well.
Next question.
Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois asks, with the OfficeHours encouragement to use an external hardware encoder when possible, would the Magewell Ultra Encode AIO be a good option? Seems less expensive compared to others.
Alex, what do you think?
It's one of those things that we have to I feel like we need to do some head-to-head tests. By the way, Mickey gave me a hard time. He says, I mentioned the Voyage to you years ago. Sorry, Mickey. I wasn't ready for your wisdom yet, Mickey. So anyway, it was just too early for me, and so anyway, to go back to the Magewell Ultra Encode, I think we have to test a lot of these. Not all compressors are made equally, so the issue that you have is. Is it sure it can do a lot of things with the features, but how does it actually encode? And it's something that's kind of on our list of let's get a bunch of encoders in the house and test them, and we just haven't had time to do that yet. Because what you want to do is go to something that's a little bit challenging as far as a bandwidth. So like let's say 1080p at 30 frames a second at 6 megs a second. Let's run all of them the same way, and what you want to do is pass them all through that system. Maybe we'll see if we can collect all of our encoders together and make that work. But the Magewell stuff has been pretty good. But again, you really have to look at the quality that you're getting out. And then, of course, what do you need to control it? For instance, we use Videon encoders here, and these Videon encoders have this great cloud solution, and there's a lot of ways to control it remotely, and there's a lot of other, conveniences to it, but they are more expensive.
And David Brady in the chat says, the Magewell Ultra AIO is the cat's meow, bringing cats back into our theme here. Multi-format, multi-stream, local record, companion, and API control. And Mickey McAchore says the same thing. The Ultra Encode AIO is a great option. Haven't had any issues so far. Chuck Swan gave it a +1. So everybody seems to be of the opinion that this is a fine piece of kit. Next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, has anyone ever experimented with a locally hosted large language model?
Alex.
I've experimented with it. What I found early on, and I haven't done it for a little while, is that it's slower, it's lower quality, and it takes up a lot of space. So for me, I was kind of like, I don't know. I get it. I think that there's arguments for that from a security perspective. There's arguments for that from having either more control over what you do to less control that they have. So that, people use local ones because they want to ask it to do things that Chat GPT or Midjourney won't let them. So there's a bunch of reasons people do it. I just found it. The problem is the online ones are so much better at their solutions that it's really hard to justify the local LLMs.
Next question.
Sok Dorje in Dharamsala, India asks, hi panelists, I'd appreciate your suggestions and help with creating highlights of soccer matches, mainly focusing on goals and saves. Are there any AI solutions available for this kind of task?
Alex, what do you think?
I don't know about, I don't know of any at the moment, but that are actually going to grab those highlights. It feels like it'd be something that would be coming somewhere in the future, but I have not seen something because that seems like something that AI would be very good at, is to, especially if it had the audio and the video of the commentary and the video of it, even just the video, it should be able to figure that out pretty quickly. But I haven't seen any AI versions of that. And the question is are you trying to do the highlights later or during the show? And doing during the show is a whole different set of challenges. We did a demo of doing it in Resolve, and I still feel like it is it's a really, it's just kind of a cumbersome way to approach that process. It can do it, but you feel like Blackmagic should really release something that is more mission specific.
Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, Alex, what is the hardware you're using for the House of Worship?
Do you want to describe your system, Alex?
Yeah, we're still in design phase. So we'll let you know. We'll definitely do walkthroughs. I mean, if I if it goes forward. Right now we're in design discussion and so on and so forth, but if it goes forward, we'll break it all down for everybody about how it works. I want to use it as a lab to show other house of worships of any denomination, what we think might work, and constantly experiment with it. So stay tuned.
Next question.
Jack Cannon in Phoenix, Arizona wants to know, summer is coming. Can the panel recommend a waterproof iPhone case? Looking for a case to take the iPhone 15 Pro snorkeling on family beach trips.
Interestingly, I haven't seen a ton of those. I wonder if that's because of the touch interface. Alex, have you had success in working with something that allows touch to get through, but not water?
I have. I'm just trying to see if I can find the one that I had used in the past. There are some that the Sea Life one is the one I think that I've had. I just don't know if it's for the newest one. I've had it for older ones that I use. Let's see here. This is the.
I don't really know. Does the touch screen on on all the Apple devices use I think sensing of heat or something? Because that would be a mess underwater.
No, there's no control over
touch.
it.
It really doesn't work
capacitive
underwater.
Touch.
No. Yeah, and what we I think that this is the one that I had before. This is the one here, and this one is. It does say that it does 8 through. I had it for an older one. It does say 8 through the 15 Pro Max. So if you have the 16, it may not work. But this one is, and if I remember correctly, it was you're just using the buttons. You're not. I mean, you're hitting. You have to kind of set it up for it. You're not. It's designed to hit record, not designed to take calls and everything else that you need to do. So I think So I think
can't
that
do
was
underwater
the one
navigation and move the map.
Yeah, and I can't find it here, but I believe this is the one that I got a while ago for one of my older phones, and it worked. It worked great. I didn't go very deep. I probably could have gone. I'm still a little paranoid of taking it there, but I'm going to the shore this summer, and I'm probably gonna put my older phone. I might take the 15 only because I only got a month before I get a new phone. So
there you go, Jason.
Yeah, just a quick word of warning for those who are looking at the ingress protection and thinking, my phone's pretty waterproof. Salt water is not the same thing. So if you're going to take it in the ocean, be very careful.
It does say that it's good for 40 meters or 130 feet down, which that's pretty far down. So if the phone itself is supposed to be able to do 6 meters for 30 minutes. So 18 feet. For 30 minutes is what the phone is supposed to handle. I have tested older iPhones for waterproof by accidentally falling into my pool while cleaning it in the middle of a call. And it worked fine later. Just had to let it sit for a little while, and it didn't even. I mean, literally, I wiped it off, and it was ready to go again. So there you go.
Jack in the chat said, "I was hoping to do an underwater zoom. Sorry, you're out of luck.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think you're gonna be able to pinch."
The hardest part with underwater. We did a live stream with divers. And so they were underwater with sharks, and they're talking to people in a Google Hangout back then. And the hardest part is the breather, because they're constantly, so you have to kind of, it's much louder when you're doing the show than you think it would be. And then they have to talk while they're it's kind of like talking while they're holding their breath. If you end up doing that, if you want to do a Zoom, by the way, Jack, the key there is that you're going to they have the comms for the breather are different. It's a different wiring setup than the comms that you would normally tie into, to a 4-pin. So what you need to do is you need to build built a little connector that did the conversion. So just in case you're wondering, that's another piece of the puzzle that you might want to think about.
One of my old camcorders, I used to have a thing that was very much like a very upgraded Ziploc bag. I mean, literally, it was just a bag that I could put the still camera that I was using at the time in, and it had kind of a screw-down closure that opened. That actually worked pretty decently, and I wonder if something like that doesn't cost you a lot of money might help add that barrier between the salt water and the unit. There are a lot of possibilities out there. So whatever you do, Jack, get back to us and let us know if it worked, and I hope you have a fabulous time underwater, wherever you're heading and whatever you're doing. Next question.
Mickey Curling in Manchester asks, using vMix call to send world feeds to remote sport commentators bringing back their audio for broadcast. We get terrible glitches on some return audio. Any recommendations on how to fix vMix call or alternatives for remote commentary?
Alex, what do you think?
Zoom. so I would use Zoom over vMix call every day of the week. You know, doing what you're talking about is pretty difficult to do well, and Zoom has figured out how to do most of it. So if you're looking for that lowest latency commentary, now there are other SRT solutions. I would definitely not use vMix call to talk to my mom. Like vMix call is trash. It is not usable. That's why they took on putting Zoom inside of vMix. But you don't need to do that. You can do it outside of this. We've done commentary over Zoom, and it's been very successful. Here are the keys that everybody has to be on Ethernet. Like that's the thing that may be some of what's breaking up in vMix call. But you need to make sure that you want to be, but you can use vMix. If you're using vMix to cut the rest of the show, then you can use Zoom inside of vMix. If you're just using vMix for vMix call, then just use Zoom, and you can use Zoom ISO to pull all the audio back out again, and that can be sent over Dante. It can be sent. It's just so much more powerful. So if you're using vMix for the rest of it, then I would use the Zoom integration with vMix. Don't use vMix call. Like it's not okay. So but if you're just using vMix for the commentary, you don't need to. You can use Zoom ISO and pull all that audio out and then deliver it to your system.
Next question.
Ajahn Chandil in Los Angeles asks, are we still using opusclip for office hours?
Alex, are we still doing that?
We are. And all the clips that you see up there are they're all from opusclip, and it works really well. And so what we've been experimenting with that we're still kind of moving around right now is the 4K solution. So the way the opusclip worked, when we started, we were grabbing just the program feed and doing it, but it's not as high resolution. What we found is that when we do a 4K encode of the active speaker, so we have a separate feed that goes out to YouTube right now. We're working on being able to save it to the actual encoder, but we can grab this 4K solution that doesn't have any of the graphics, doesn't have any of the edit, just has the people talking. And then when we deliver that to Opus, we're getting even higher quality video. But opusclip is pretty amazing. You throw a show into it, it comes back with 30 or 40 options, and you just pick the ones you want. You might have to tune a little bit of the ins and out points there, but it's pretty amazing.
Next question.
Pedro G. Gonzalez III in Jacksonville asks, I've regularly seen several Sennheiser MKE 600 shotgun mics, both on camera and in interview situations. Is the Sennheiser MKH 416 P48U3 shotgun microphone 3 times better for 3 times the price? How?
Well, I'll let Alex dive in first. Alex,
I'll let Bill do it, but I will suggest. I just will say that we have a lot of audio experts that are on Wednesdays. And so when you look at asking these questions, really think about Wednesdays as a great day to ask really deep audio questions, because it's such a great crew that's there just about every Wednesday to answer those questions.
Yeah, and I think it depends on the metrics you're looking at it. Are you interested in just getting the sound today? You may not be able to determine that much difference between using those two things. 10 years from now, when you're still using the 416 and it still has value because the industry has hundreds of thousands of them out there in operation in professional hands, and they were built like tanks to last forever, I suspect your MKE 600 is not going to be doing the same thing. So again, if it's a short-term purchase, I know a lot of people who are content creators who bought into these and use them on cameras and things like that. As long as you don't try to make it do something it can't do, which is to say don't stand 20 feet away and try to capture sound with any shotgun mic on your camera. As long as you can move very close and you're in a quiet environment, even those little on-camera mics can be effective. And particularly if you're using it as a selfie cam turned around and you're literally 1 foot from a little shotgun mounted on your phone or something like that, you can get very, very decent results out of that. But it's not the same as a piece of kit that is designed to last for your career. And every time somebody out in the field at a press scrum or something like that glances at it, they don't go, oh, why is he using that? And that may not be your criteria, but that's how the industry works. Sometimes you use tools because everybody agrees these are excellent tools and they will last you your entire career. Next question.
Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia asks, Alex, is a gourmet popcorn update appropriate for today, or is it a weekend question?
We got time. We got
Getting
time.
into the serious stuff here.
I kept on pushing it to the end. I moved it down a couple times. I'm like, well, we're not going to answer this question unless we run out of questions. And we were a little low on questions today. So
watch, your viewership will spike right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody wants popcorn.
Exactly. So I'll tell you what my current thing is that I do. It's changing all the time, but this is where I'm at right now. So let me pull up the things that I have here. I should put a link in here. I'd probably make a lot of money. Anyway, so I use this stovetop stainless steel popcorn popper. I don't use this one specifically, but the one I used isn't made anymore. The key is there's Jiffy Pops for less money, but the bottom, the Jiffy Pop, not the Jiffy Pop, the Whirly Pop. There's Whirly Pops for less money, but the Whirly Pop at the bottom, there's not there's only one layer of thin steel, and it doesn't heat evenly. So you want one that's got a thick bottom on it so that you let it sit on low heat for 15 minutes or 20 minutes and it heats the whole thing up evenly and it'll pop better than that. So this is the style that I use. I will admit that there's one down here that was super expensive. If you want to get me something for my birthday, which is coming up, this is the one that this is what looks like the kind of the high end version of it, but it's $229, which might be absurdly too expensive for what we're talking about. Anyway, so then the other thing that I use, I swear by the Amish popcorn. You can see that I purchased it 3 times, a 6-pound pack 3 times. So I've gone through a lot of this. This is what, when you go to a fair and you get the caramel corn or anything else, this is the popcorn that's used. It's really big and thick. My family likes it's Amish country, and my family really likes this. This is the largest kernels you'll see. This is the mushroom popcorn kernels. Now, I personally prefer the Amish lady fingers, which are very tiny and much less, they're softer and everything else. And so I like the lady fingers myself. So when I make popcorn only for myself when I'm watching a movie, I make ladyfinger. When I make it for the rest of the family, I use the mushroom. I only buy my olive oil from this company here, Nueva Amphora. And I didn't realize they had an online shop, but Nueva Amphora is they make it, they're straight from Italy. They have a store in San Anselmo. I walked into it going, I can't believe they have an entire olive oil store that's all it is olive oil and a couple little extra things. Turns out there's a lot to olive oil, but the key is that some of them are high smoke point. So I can, so these are they are harvested when the olives are green, and so that it goes to a higher smoke point. It just has an entire, like when you cook in it, when you put it on things, when you dip bread into it, it tastes so much better than regular olive oil that you get kind of addicted to that thing. So this is the one that so I go there about once every other week. The nice thing about it is when you have really good olive oil and you know where to get it and it's always fresh, you're going there all the time to pick it up because you don't want to have olive oil sit in your can in your house for very long. So anyway, it's JJ said the olive oil store is on the way to church. So good.
From what you said about popcorn and the Amish, I'm thinking there's an Amish popcorn mafia that controls all the state fairs.
Pretty much.
Is this a thing?
They sell it in like it's 100. It's like 500 millimeters, 1,000 milliliters, and then they have a jug it's called Don't Judge Me. This huge amount of olive oil that you can order, but it's run by someone. It's been a family that's done this for over 100 years. The person who owns it is a chef that was a chef for 20 years and just said, I just found that olive oil made a huge difference in cooking and no one was getting good stuff. And so anyway, and then the other thing that I use is this is black truffle sea salt. And so what I do with that is that I take to do it in my Whirly Pop. I take it's 3 tablespoons of the olive oil, 1 teaspoon of the black truffle salt, and I heat. Once the olive oil is hot, I blend the salt into it while it's hot before the popcorn goes in. then I put 155 grams of popcorn. It used to be 160, but I found that it pushes up against the top just a little too much. So it's 155 grams of popcorn into it, and then I pop it for a couple minutes. I mean, in a couple minutes, almost everything is popped, and it's all been coated now with everything. If you want, you can add butter or other things like that, but it's pretty amazing on its own. So I find what's nice about it is it makes it lighter by doing it that way. If I'm going to put something on it, I will put a little bit of butter on it, and then I put furikake on it, wasabi furikake that you can get. That's the other side of that, and so that's that's where we go with that.
Alex's popcorn algorithm is now a part of public knowledge.
Exactly. The current one. See, the thing is, I can give it away anytime I want, because if you ask this question in a year, I'll have a whole different set
change.
Well, I was talking to him. When you go to that olive oil place, they give you a little cup of popcorn that is crackalicious. Like, I mean, it is like, I mean, you're like, the only thing my kids want to know if we're going to stop by is are we going to get some of the popcorn? We can't. They don't want to go early in the morning because the popcorn's not ready till 11. So they get a little cup of popcorn, but it's totally crackalicious. And so and what they do is, I guess they do it in a wok, and then they take truffle oil, and they said that they run it around the outside edge of the wok after the popcorn's been popped, and then they turn it over. To kind of give it a little bit of a coating to it. And I was like, okay, all right.
Jason Bache, save me.
So you've got to understand, Alex's obsession with a craft is like half the journey. And I fell on this rabbit hole a couple years ago. And like, here's the difference between Amish mushroom popcorn. It is perfectly round, and it really does pop absolutely everything. The beauty of this is that if you get they don't make the copper one anymore. That's a shame. But yeah, if you get the stovetop stir, and you learn how to stir it really carefully, all the salt and the oil are on the inside, because of course it pops and turns inside out. It is absolutely phenomenal.
Someone pointed out that you can't plant popcorn, and the thought has crossed my mind to plant it. I am working on. I keep on working on building an area of wheat, because I figured out that I can make all the bread that we need to eat during the year with only 25 by 25 foot square of wheat. And I was like, and my wife is like, she's a little like, there's a lot of fun made of me about.
Can you do it on a hill, Alex?
No,
That's
you
what
can't.
I want to know.
Like, yeah, you can do it. And the thing is I was like, if I get my own wheat, then I live near the sea. I can get my own sea salt. And now I can leave the dough out and let it just pick up the yeast from the air. I got a whole plan here. Build sourdough bread from scratch.
I'm going to stop this and be the popcorn heretic, because Alex said two words that took me back to my childhood: Jiffy Pop.
No,
it's cruddy popcorn. But watching the aluminum foil dome on a stove expand felt like a science fiction experiment.
All I can say is
still all in on that.
You're still good if you just get the Amish popcorn and get a $25 Whirly Pop and put some oil. Don't use any of the seed oils; they're poison. But if you get but if you put find a good avocado oil or something else. I would highly recommend moving away from, if you're using. It's just not much harder to make popcorn than microwave, and the microwave stuff is, you're just eating cardboard. Like, it's just flavored cardboard. It's not okay, and it can be so much better. So,
well, the last part of it, of course, is that you need the thermal gun, right, to make sure that you get the oil
the temperature
the right
is
temperature.
Correct. Right? Yes. Yeah.
Well, I haven't used the thermal gun yet, but I thought about it. But I just. The way I do it is that I do use the thermal gun a lot when making pancakes, when making crepes. I have a couple thermal guns, so I definitely use them. But with the popcorn, you wait until 2 pops happen. I don't start turning it until 2 pops happen, or 3 pops happen within a second of each other, and then you start turning it. And when they stop doing that, then you stop turning, and then it's done. So that's kind of the rule of thumb.
That's our show for today. Thank you so much for being here. We had a lot of fun, and we appreciate every time you come by and help us make this possible, because you are the core reason we do this show every day. And thank you, everybody who's a producer on the show. That means you put in a question, generated the discussion that we have by doing so, and then everybody in the back end, all of our friends who gather together live during the show to vote on and talk about and just generally be part of the community. And thank you for all of your input, because more and more we are going to that community to get extra intelligence for our answers. Panelists, thank you very much. As always, the panelists volunteer their time, come in freely to not just demonstrate their expertise that they've taken decades often to accumulate, but literally to just give it away for free. And so thank you all. Then the back-end crew, the amazing back-end crew who is quietly working in the background to make this all possible. Thank you, each and every one. Our Talak traversal today, 57,000 miles. That's 92,000 kilometers. 454 million bananas for scale. We'll be back tomorrow. It's Wednesday, audio day tomorrow. See you then. Bye.
I did find out at theaters they don't call it popcorn when you're talking about, they're like seed. They just call it seed. They're like, yeah, we got about 250 pounds of seed in the back. So
that's gross.
I walked by. I don't know. It was pallets and pallets and pallets of seed recently. It was quite a thing. No, they're just seed. I mean, because it's not. It's just pure popcorn. So it's not.
Yeah, it just sits there. It's not. You know,
yeah, it's where your popcorn sat before it got put into a little bag.
It was like me going through the dog food production thing and watching the train cars of corn and the train cars of wheat coming in.
Yeah.
That's going to fill up 100 million bags of dog food.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly. All right.
Fun.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody.